everybody. We're Team Zigantic from the Year 2 TYE program. My name is Viknath Ramesh, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Zigantic. This is Risha Mohan, our co-founder and CMO, Sahil Kancherla, our CPO, Arav Manchanda, our VP of Revenue, and Vihandi, our CTO, coming all the way from New York. To start, we'd like you to meet Kevin, part of the indie meetup Seattle Indies. Kevin is currently working on adding level 3 to his newest game, Epitours. With all of his free time taken up adding new features and improving his game, Kevin doesn't have the time to actually go out and look for real kids to test his app and give them valuable game feedback. Now meet high school student Sally and her friends. Bored with the monotonous routine of high school, these kids are always trying to play games on their phone, whether it be between classes or after they finish their homework and have some free time before bed. Whenever they need money to buy the coolest new games on the App Store or some other gadgets, their parents tell them to start being responsible and to earn their own money. These kids only fantasize the ability to get paid for playing games. Zigantic makes that dream come true by helping Kevin, Sally, and Sally's friends all at once. Kevin gets valuable game feedback from Sally and her friends playing his game, and the kids are constantly getting new versions of new games to play and pocket money along the way. Mobile and PC game developers like Kevin face the burden of game validation. That is, they are unable to successfully receive feedback from kids with only a rough beta version of their game that still needs lots of development and improvement. On the other hand, high school students like Sally and her friends are always in need of new games to play and money to buy them. Our solution is a new generation mobile validation platform. Even though the survey answer platform is an innovation of the past, we are redefining the mobile validation platform for a new target segment. Mobile and PC game developers receive input from a guaranteed number of the untapped audience of high school students, with expansion of the developers' games throughout the student schools highly likely. Students are incentivized by our app's reward system to give great quality answers with deep insights, as verified by our moderation team. Overall, our platform's main purpose is to let kids answer surveys that mobile and PC game developers themselves create.
Version 1 of Zigantic app, iOS. Since most of our initial target users were iPhone owners, we decided to start by developing an iOS version of the app. Development. We kicked off the development by outsourcing to a freelance developer. He created most of the initial design of the app. At that point, I took over the development of the app. I added some of the key features and created the UI. Publishing. The app was initially rejected from the App Store, and this happened about 17 times. But finally, it was added in early December of 2018. Version 2 of Zigantic app, React Native. So you must be wondering why we decided to switch to React Native. Firstly, there were many setbacks with the iOS app, as you can see over here. Additionally, when we talked to game developers that we met at Indie Hub workshops, they seemed interested in using our product for their iOS apps. Additionally, they also wanted to use it for their Android and PC games.
All right, so we'd like to now present a short video demo of our React Native app.
Whether you are a game developer seeking product validation or a student searching for the newest games to play, Zigantic covers it all. This is the account of one of our high school student users. He's able to select from a wide range of games to test and survey. One way he can do this is by choosing from a select set of featured games. Additionally, he can choose from a list of games that Zigantic has recommended for him, or he can simply search up a keyword like a certain category, a specific game developer, or even a game itself. After he selects a game, he can start answering the questions that are a part of that game's survey. Once he finishes, he can exit the survey and continue surveying other games. To check his current Z points, the in-app currency of the Zigantic app, he simply has to navigate to the Z Points tab, where he can view his current Z Point total and potentially redeem it for gift cards or donations.
All right, so there are a couple aspects to our value proposition that we believe make it like none other out there. Firstly, we have our own proprietary panel of high school students. And being high school students ourselves, these students are very accessible through channels of social media and word of mouth. Additionally, we have our own feedback platform, where we have in-app surveys, where users can directly input their responses to their gaming experience, which is something pretty unique to our app as well. As for our product, we pinpointed two main features that we believe make it unique. Firstly, we have our own system of collecting game recordings, which can then be packaged and provided to the game developers as a part of our service. Additionally, we have our own in-app payment and reward system, which incentivizes students to test games and complete surveys, and in return, receive Z points, which can ultimately be redeemed as gift cards or donations, as stated in the demo. As for our product vision, we pinpointed four main goals that we have for the future of Zigantic and our product. Firstly, we'd like to gather more insightful information for the game developer, which will be completed by further analyzing the video recordings that we collect. Our goal is to collect not only the conscious data, but the unconscious data as well. Using the data that we collect from these video recordings, we'd like to then predict player gaming trends, such as their gaming habits and patterns, which we can then provide to the game developer to help them better modify their game to fit the user's needs/wants. And additionally, we'd like to test out a wide range of games that aren't just the everyday mobile application, such as those that utilize more unique style of gaming, such as those that implement augmented reality, virtual reality, etc. And finally, after talking to many game developers, we understood that it was a high priority of theirs to not only receive feedback on the game itself, but also test their infrastructure when many users are playing the game at once. So it's a future goal of Zigantic to provide large-scale infrastructure testing to these game developers. As for pricing, Zigantic currently offers three main pricing options to their developers. So the first is the base package, the bronze package, which is valued at $9.99 per review, and this includes just the raw data, so the answers from the surveys. The next package up is the silver package, which is valued at $14.99 per review, and this includes the raw data and the reviewer contact information, so email. And the final package is the gold package, which is valued at $19.99 per review, and this includes the benefits from the previous two packages, but also includes a 5-minute screen recording of the user's gameplay. Alright, so as for player rewards, as of now we've designated a certain number of Z points that will be awarded to each of the tasks that the user might complete. So if the user were to complete the written survey, they would receive anywhere between 10 and 30 Z points, depending on the quality of their responses. Additionally, if the user is willing to include their email to provide to the developer, they'll receive an extra 5 Z points. And if the user is willing to include a 5-minute screen recording of their gaming experience, they'll receive 20 Z points. So the user can receive almost $2 worth of Z points by completing one survey.
So in terms of validation, we talked to 21 mobile and PC game developers, and out of that 21, 19 of them agreed with our hypothesis and confirmed that they had no way of reaching high school students to test their game, even though they were one of their fastest growing target audiences. We then talked to 90 plus high school students, and 77 of them said that they were willing to test new games and answer surveys to get rewards. In terms of our market, there are over 200,000 mobile and PC game developers in the United States itself. 500 new games are added to the App Store every single day. 63% of kids in the entire world play games on their mobile or PC devices, and half of the rapidly growing video game market is just mobile and PC games. So our total addressable market is all mobile and PC game developers, and that approximates to around $50 billion. Our total serviceable market is mobile and PC game developers with newly made games, and that approximates to $16.67 billion, or 1/3 of our total addressable market.
Over the past few months, Zigantic employees have been attending indie game hubs, where we had the opportunity to talk to 30 plus potential customers. Of these 30, we converted on 2 to be customers in Exospecies and Epitoris. We also got 4 qualified customer leads that we are currently working on converting. We are currently in talks with George Mason University through one of their professors, Mahesh Joshi. Mahesh has given us the opportunity to offer our services to all GMU's many game students. As you can see from this testimony by our first customer, Eric Zinda, he found lots of value in Zigantic at an early stage and is definitely coming back to use our service again. Zigantic's competition consists of 2 main companies, VMC Games and Go Testify. VMC Games is a game testing service similar to Zigantic. However, they focus on larger scale companies, while instead Zigantic tailors to the needs of indie game developers, which in our opinion are a much more underserved portion of the market. VMC Games is also unable to deliver on low pricing and quick responses, which are vitally important to this target audience. Our next competitor is GoTestify. GoTestify is a UK-based company, therefore miss out on the huge US game market, and also have triple the pricing of Zigantic. What these two companies have in common is that they both lack access to a proprietary panel of high school students, which, considering that many of their games are targeted towards high schoolers or just kids in general, is a huge disadvantage. Next, let's talk about how we plan to generate demand. We have three main strategies of doing so. The first of which are indie game hubs, as I mentioned before. Indie game hubs give us the opportunity to meet and interact with game developers live and face-to-face as they are working on and sharing their games with other game developers. While indie hubs are one of the main gaming forums, they aren't the only ones, as there are other game-related meetups and gaming conventions where we can meet and interact with these game developers. Finally, Zigantic will continue to approach universities and educational organizations in order to offer our services to their many gaming students. This model shows how we project to grow over the next few years. As you can see, by the end of this fiscal year of 2019, we project to have over $15,000 in revenue, which comes from 15 total active customers. However, by the end of fiscal year 2022, we plan to grow this by a lot, which mainly comes from an average revenue per client increase of $1,000 to $5,000. Zigantic has also been featured in the press many times already, including multiple articles by new websites and even radio interviews and other local news stations.
In the recent past, Zigantic has gotten a pre-seed round of funding from friends and family in which we obtained $18,000. This was structured as a convertible note to be repaid in 2 years with any outstanding balance converted into equity shares. With this money, we will do three main things. First, we will hire a React Native developer who will help us speed up the process to get our app on the Android and on the web. Then, we will also use the money towards rewarding our end users after they answer a survey. And finally, we will use the money for content marketing, lead generation, and advertising. Here are a few of Zigantic's main accomplishments since its inception. We have three main next steps. First, we want to fully launch our React Native application. Then, we want to build phase 2 of Zigantic, in which we will have signups for in-studio testing and pre-launch infrastructure testing. Finally, we want to acquire and deliver to 15 new customers by the end of 2019.
So our asks for you today are first, any mentorship you could provide us. Second, network connections. And third, potential customer leads. Here are the various ways you can contact us. Thank you so much for your time.
Well done. Nice to see some press on that already. You have some momentum. That's great. And this is your second year working on this, right?
Yes.
I'd like to know a little bit about your story. Are you all gamers? How did you kind of rally around this idea and concept?
So I think one large part of it is that we started this company because we all play games a lot, and we found that there were a lot of features of games that we wanted to give feedback on, and we thought that developers could really use insights from their target market to improve their game. So we thought that by building a platform to make it a win-win situation for both sides, that would be a great idea for a company, and that's how we started.
Yeah, to add on to what Vigno said, recently some of the most successful games that a lot of us have been playing have been what they call community-based games, which means that the community has lots of input on what goes on in the game. And we kind of wanted to make this a factor for all games, which is why we decided to take matters into our own hands and create an app for it.
To build on that, I think one thing that's really cohesive about the story is if you think about just positioning and general messaging, you had the story where you laid out what the problem was, which was really good and easy to understand. I think then you also were able to articulate kind of the ideal customer person and the ideal target customer, and then be able to identify what your value propositions were for those. So all that was really clear, and you had a really nice storyline there. One thing that I would just recommend as you continue to go forward in this process is these points that we just talked about, the personal part of the story of why is it relevant for you and why did you actually start it. Like those little pieces that you just said a moment ago are actually pretty compelling to the story, because people want to know why did you even start it in the first place. So I would maybe add that back into the story because it's meaningful and it makes it more personable for you.
Yeah, thank you. That's great advice.
Yeah, this is a really cool idea. I really like this idea, and I guess can you talk a little bit about, if you think about the landscape of game developers, can you just walk me through the landscape and then which subset you're focused on? And there's a lot of them that work for big companies, and a lot of them kind of produce these on their own themselves. We'd just love to understand where do you start?
Yeah, so as you said, there's a lot of bigger companies, and those probably at this point, as we've looked into research, they have solutions and they have people that they go to get this kind of testing. So that's why we're focusing more on the indie game developers, which are independent, 1 or 2 people per company, and they create their own games. And the point of our app is that they don't have the time and the resources and the money to, in order to get the service done on their own. So when we talked to them in solution validation, they thought it was a very, very good idea. And that's why we decided to target towards them.
And how are they doing this before?
So right now, their main solution is to go to friends and family and have them play the game and give them feedback. But we believe that is sort of biased because they don't want to say anything bad about, like, friends and family don't want to say anything bad about the game to ruin, to make their game any different. So that's why we feel it's kind of biased.
Yeah, also many of these game developers attend these indie meetups, which is what we've been attending over the past couple of months. And most of their idea generation is from bouncing ideas off of one another to see what they would, like other developers in the same field would recommend they add to their games.
And I guess another question on, I think one of the things that's going to be key here is keeping as much of the engagement on the platform as possible. I noticed on the pricing page, getting access to the reviewers' contact information was one of the things you get if you pay more. Can you explain why that's interesting to the developers, and is there an opportunity to keep that in the platform?
Yeah, so the developers would be interested in getting the reviewers' email because they, after a reviewer sends in their survey, developers feel, we talked to a few developers and they feel that the need to, or they have the need to go back to those people and ask them why they thought of what they said. So that's one of the reasons that we believe that they need the contact information. And one of the things we're looking to add in our app is a messaging system where the developer can actually message the person who answered the survey through the app itself. And that's one way we can put it in the platform.
Yeah, and there's a, go ahead, do you want to?
Oh, yeah. So many modern games have mailing lists and that update their users on versions or updates or new features that are added to the game. So when the user is providing their email, they're pretty much signing up for those mailing lists.
Yeah, and there's a big market of folks kind of one step further that they want that personal relationships, and then they want them to continue to test the game, do more of kind of maybe the QA testing type stuff, and that could be an area for you to explore. Is if you can own that communication, what other engagements or relationships can you begin to monetize on? If they really like that one reviewer and they want them to keep reviewing the game, can you continue to monetize that, or does that go off your platform? So just something to think about.
Thank you. That's definitely great advice.
I have a question about your proprietary panel of testers. That seems to be kind of the crux of your value prop. Can you double click and tell us more about that?
Yeah, so obviously we're all high school students here, and almost all of my friends have some passion for gaming. So our proprietary panel are the people around us in school who we talk to every day, who we talk about new games with, oh, did you hear about this, you hear about that. So our proprietary panel would be these high school students that are looking for more games to play, looking for some pocket money to make as well. Yeah, things like that.
So to build off that, in our validation phase, when we talk to a bunch of developers, a lot of developers' new games that are being added to the App Store and on computers every day are targeted towards high school students because kids that are around our age are the primary source of people playing games. So the fact and the developers today, however, they don't have much access to that market of high school students. So that's why by connecting the two groups, we think that's the main feature of our company.
So I had a question about the value that the actual students or the gamers will have. So they come on, they give some feedback based on their points, the Z points, they can get gift cards or things like that. So how does that process all work? I understand how it works for the student or for the gamer, but how does it work for actually getting the game cards up there? So they're gonna pay some money, the developer's gonna pay some money, and then at some point that money is converted somehow into game cards that then are up on your platform. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah, so are you familiar with Bing Rewards?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our incentive program is kind of like Bing Rewards. So instead of like taking different random quizzes, instead you're surveying the games. And when you build up enough points where you can, when you have enough to like redeem them for gift cards or donations, at that point you can go in and select whichever gift card that you want for a certain monetary value and redeem those.
Right, so I understand how that works conceptually. I'm just trying to push your level of thinking a little bit of when someone actually says, I want an Amazon gift card, how are they gonna get an Amazon gift card? Like, is there someone on your back end that is converting the money people are paying to subscriptions and then your employees are going and buying gift cards, or someone's saying they want it and there's a certain number of gift cards and then you're going and procure? Have you thought about that at all? Like, how does that actually work?
Yeah, so right now we're currently working on partnering with a company called TangoCard, and TangoCard gets like surveys or other forms of requests about gift cards, and they're the one who distributes the gift cards to the end users. So by like somehow, we're still thinking about this as we grow our company, but by partnering with a company like TangoCard and implementing this in-app payment feature into our app, then the users can fill out a redeem currency page, and then TangoCard comes in and gets the gift card to them as part of their platform.
Yeah, just as a recommendation, I mean, TangoCard would be a great option to do it. I think that it is pretty important to put that into part of your story when you talk about financials or flow, because it conceptually makes sense, but as someone starts thinking about how you're going to actually operationalize it, there's a bit of a disconnect in terms of how it would actually work. And you don't have to have all the answers, just even saying, oh, we're going to try to partner with someone like TangoCard that already has that whole logistic engine all plugged in, I think would help to make your story much more cohesive.
Thank you for that advice.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is a really cool idea, and VCs are pumping a lot of money into this space. There's a local company here, and he's involved in the TYE network. I'm sure many folks know him, Abhishek at Pulse Labs. So he raised a couple $1 million to do user and product testing on brands that are starting voice applications, and there just wasn't a big market for testing voice applications to see if they actually work. And so this is, I haven't seen anything that's doing this for indie gamers. So I'd push you. I know you're in high school, but if this is something you're interested in, there's a real business here. So, and go talk to Abhishek. He's in the TYE network.
Oh, thank you so much.
I think one other thought, when you think about just the supply and demand as you push the envelope on how to actually go to the next stages, you're making a claim, and we touched on this before, but you're making a pretty strong claim in your competitive positioning that you have this proprietary reach to high school students that other companies don't. And you're a small team that has a relatively small network of friends that are here in Seattle or beyond, if you think about your network. And in order to have a company scale, you need to have a strategy in terms of how are you going to get broader and broader reach for those students, and then also how are you going to protect and defend that competitive positioning that these other companies couldn't go hire a whole bunch of high school students wherever they are and do the same thing. So I'd push. Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, we've been thinking about kind of the topics that you're talking about and reaching broader. What we're investing to do is using social media, high school influencers on social media, in order to just broaden our reach on all of our end users. And that also includes not just things like Instagram, Twitter, but even pages like Reddit, where you see lots of game forums, all kinds of unique game forums, so we can find specific types of people to play specific types of games. And that's why we think that this idea is kind of a goldmine, because it's not only a large market, but it's really easy to reach, especially if you know the right places, which we believe that we do, and we've done a lot of research to back that up.
I think those are all good points. I would put into your story and your presentation about how you're going to extend that reach and how you think you can do that faster and be able to defend it, because that will be a compelling part of your story. You have to have that population of users to be able to grow and be competitive. Really, really awesome progress. You've made a lot of progress in terms of the metrics, the financial model, and all the positioning, and it's clearly a company that actually could really do a really amazing job.
Thank you so much.
And I like the aggressive projections. You know, that's one knock on Seattle entrepreneurs is, you know, they're not as aggressive as some of our friends down in the valley. So I like that, you know, that you have that 4x growth rate and for the next couple of years. So stay aggressive.